Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. This is Jack here from Peach Guitars, and today it's my great pleasure to introduce you to the latest edition of the Line 6 stable of products. I'm going to talk you through the brand new Line 6 Pod Go, but before I do so, I just want to remind you to please like this video if you enjoy it, and to make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. So 2020 has seen Line 6 unveil a new product in the Pod family, which hasn't been kind of refreshed and revamped for a little while, as they've spent so many years focusing on the Helix family of products, which has done very, very well for them. But it was about time they put some injected some life back into the Pod lineup, and now seems a great time to do it. And what they've actually done is merge the two families. So for anyone who's familiar with a Pod product, and I'm sure most players out there will be, whether it's the first iterations of those kidney bean style units, or if you're more familiar with the more recent units like the HD 500X, the Pod family of products is tried and true, as is the Helix family of products, and they've decided for 2020 with this Pod Go to basically merge the two and give you some of the best attributes and elements of both products. So let me tell you exactly what I'm talking about here when I say that they've merged the two. What you've got is the kind of form factor and the price point, most importantly, of the Pod lineup of products. This Pod Go is retailing for a lot less than the HX family of products typically would be, but what's very interesting is they've imported basically the entire brains of an HX product. So you've got all the HX engines and models going on in this product. So all of the tones and effects that you can achieve in this unit are exactly the same as those that you can achieve in an HX product. So that kind of maybe makes you wonder where this product actually sits, because it's neither one thing nor the other. Now, in my opinion, I think this product is perfectly suited to the player who's looking for something perfectly midway between a Line 6 Helix and maybe a Line 6 HX Stomp, for example. So you've got two very different form factors there that I'm referring to, the big Helix and the teeny tiny HX Stomp. You can see from the video that the Pod Go kind of sits firmly in between those two in terms of its physical sizing. You also get a little bit more of the practical kind of hands-on approaches that you can use with the bigger Helix products, where you've got more foot switches and more screen real estate to use to get a better understanding of what's going on with your presets. But you get the simplicity and the compact nature of an HX Stomp, the HX Effects, those kind of products. You can more easily integrate them into an existing guitar rig, or to have more compact solutions for on stage or for recording too. So as I said, in my opinion, this does kind of sit somewhere between the HX Stomp and the Line 6 Helix LT, but it's got its own form factor going on. What you've got is 8 independent foot switches with a built-in expression pedal as well, and they've really stripped back and simplified the typical HX style controls. So if you had ever had experience with a Helix product and you felt it was just a little bit too daunting, a little bit too much going on, with the Pod Go you've really got the kind of benefit of simplicity and ease of use. And when I start walking you through how to construct the presets and just navigate the stock presets, you'll see just how much easier it could be to use from a Helix style product. As for the rest of the controls on the unit, you've kind of imported the same menu, page scrolling and different parameter control buttons straight from the HX Stomp, so that's really simple here. You've just got one big global volume control which will control the main output level and headphone output level, and then you've got your 5 parameter controls as well to control various parameters within the presets. Okay, so let me now walk you through what an actual preset looks like when you load one up. So if I come off the tuner, you'll see I've got just one of the stock presets here, which is based on a Marshall Plexi kind of amp circuit. So Line 6 are great at giving you some really fantastic stock presets straight out of the box that will get you up and running in a very short amount of time. You can find the kind of rough style of amplifier tone that you're looking for, and then you've already got some effects in there to play with that are well tailored to that kind of tone. So you can pretty much plug and play straight away with this kind of product, but it's very, very easy to start editing it as well. So that's what I'm going to walk you through right now. If I change the view mode here from the Stomp mode to the preset mode, what you get here, and I think they've implemented this better than any other HX style product so far, is just how easy it is to understand the entire signal flow. So straight away you can see what amplifier I'm using. If I scroll along, you can see what cabinet I'm using, and then you can see the rest of the effects that are in the chain as well. So what's very interesting, and I'm going to come onto this later on in this video when I basically will create a preset entirely from scratch so you can see just how easy it is to do it for yourself, but I love the workflow and the kind of obvious signal flow that you've got going on here, so you can see exactly where each effect is taking place in the chain. Okay, so you're going to hear a couple of other clips throughout the course of this video of me just playing the presets anyway, but I'm going to play a little bit on this Marshall Plexi style preset that I've loaded up, just to give you an example of how easy it is to manipulate not only the controls of each block that's going on in the chain, but also to move things around and hear how it manipulates the tone to do things that way. So I'm just going to play the kind of raw preset that I've got loaded up here, and then I'm going to start moving things around and changing some controls. So it's a pretty cool Marshall Plexi kind of a sound. It's just the bright channel model as well. Now straight away on the amp block here, you can see I can control basic parameters that I want to change very quickly, like the drive of the amp, the EQ, and then if I scroll over on the page here, you've got more controls like the output volume, and then you can get into the nitty-gritty of the amp modeling itself, like adjusting the bias and how the amplifier sags, and even how it hums if you want that authentic kind of electronic grounding noise to come into the signal a little bit, but it's all part of what makes an actual amp sound like an actual amp. So those are the basics. You can apply the same kind of logical changes to the cabinet by just moving along to the cab block. And what's interesting with the Pod Go is Line 6 have very definitively separated the amp and cab into two separate blocks here. So you can jump to each one straight away very quickly and make the changes that you need to make within a matter of seconds. You can also change these blocks very easily. So if I wanted to change this from a greenback cab to let's change it to a different cab, I just have to change the model down here, and you can see that I'm changing the type of cabinet I'm using now. And this is all done in real time. It's really easy to change various components of your rig, and to have it laid out like this is really clear to see as well. So one thing I want to point out is just how easy it is to start moving elements around in the signal chain to different points that you might want to do. So for example, you've got a volume pedal tied in here right at the start of the chain, and I'm going to move this from before the amplifier to after the amp, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to do that, and I'm going to show you the drastic impact of tone that will have, and how the different position will affect the way the volume pedal works. So here it is in front of the amp. So you'll hear that what it's doing is it's actually cleaning up the input to the amplifier as a volume pedal placed in front of a real amp would do. And if I move it by pressing the action button and moving it along to after the amplifier and the signal chain, listen to the difference in the tone now. So it's a matter of seconds to move that volume pedal from in front of the amp to after it, and what you'll hear is it reacts in a completely different way. So I think the way Line 6 have simplified the way these controls work and how easy it is to understand exactly where different components are on your signal chain just makes it an absolute breeze to get everything in exactly the right place. And the key to it all, of course, is to experiment to where you're happy with the results that you're getting. So I'd just like to demonstrate exactly the same thing about moving the blocks around with a delay pedal that's in the preset. I'm going to move it first from where it is in front of the amplifier, which is distorting, so the delay is going to be distorted itself. And then I'm going to move it down the chain so that it's post-amplifier, and again you'll hear the drastic difference. So now I'm going to move it after the amp. So once again, really big difference, and it really affects the gain structuring of your signal path, and it's way easier to do in this than it is on most other products out there. Okay, so now I've talked about how the signal chain works and how you can actually affect the different parameters within the preset. I want to show you now how you can go about using this in a live application to change the settings and to change the presets really easily. So if you're alternating here between what you would call the preset view, where you can see everything that's going on in the signal chain, you can press this view button, and what that does is break you out into a stomp mode. So you can see on the screen there are 6 effects, and they correspond to 6 foot switches here. So you can turn effects on and off like this, which is obviously the kind of thing you would do if you were using a pedal board in a live situation. So that is your single preset. Now if you want to jump to a different preset, all you have to do is press the mode button, and you can see that now I'm in preset mode, and I can easily jump between 4 different presets at a time. I can bank up and down, And there's a total of 32 banks available of presets, 4 presets in each. Now what's great is they've carried across from the HX family of products the snapshot feature, and what that basically is a preset within a preset. So just by holding down the 2 bank buttons here, I go from preset mode to snapshot mode, and you can see I've got 4 snapshots there to play with. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in the video. Once you've decided on your preset and your snapshot setting, all you have to do to get back to the stomp mode to change your effects is hit the mode button once more, and you can see you're back in pedalboard mode. Now in this video I'm not going to delve too deeply into the kind of understandings of what snapshots mean, what presets mean, and all this stuff, breaking down the different models and the technical talk. If you want to find out any more information about that, you can check out our Line 6 HX Effects series, where I really broke down how to use that unit and the various parameters and models within the HX Effects. And because this product, the PodGo, has exactly the same models as those HX products, all the same theories will apply. So if you want to find out more about snapshots and how to use the models in greater detail, check out that video series when you've seen this video. It would be good to do now is, rather than list all the different stock presets and show you what you get out of the box, I'm actually going to show you how easy it is to create your own preset from scratch by using one of the blank presets that Line 6 provide up at bank 32. So I'm just going to scroll back to 32A here, and you can see I've got a new preset. Now I'm just going to hit the view button so you can see exactly what's going on in the chain. Now the way that Line 6 present a blank preset to you is a little bit different in the PodGo than it would be in an HX product. So let me just explain exactly what you get when you load up a blank preset. So rather intuitively, I think, rather than give you a completely blank slate, what Line 6 have done with the PodGo is you've got 9 blocks to play with, but they've filled a few of them already for you. Now a few of these are fixed into place, and what that means is that as soon as you go to a blank preset, you've automatically got a sound that you can start working with, and you've got certain crucial effects that most people would like to have in a preset anyway, and you don't have to worry about setting them up for yourself. So for example, with the stock preset here I've just loaded up, you've automatically got a volume pedal tied to the expression pedal. You've also got a wah block which is tied to the same expression pedal, and you access it just by pushing down on the pedal as you would do with a real wah pedal to switch between the volume and the wah model. You've automatically got your amp and cab block in place as well, and you've automatically got an EQ block as well. So those are 5 very useful things that you're probably going to want in any preset that you decide to create. The remaining 4 blocks are up to your deciding, so you can have 2 effects after the amp and cab, you can have 2 effects before them, but you can use the action button to move them around anywhere that you want in the signal chain as well. Something else that you have as a default in each preset is the send and return option, which will allow you to interface this unit with other outboard pieces of equipment, which I'm going to talk through a little bit later in this video. Okay, so as I said, I want to take this completely blank preset and start building something that sounds like the way I want it to sound. So I'm going to start with the clean tone that I've got, and then I'm going to start changing some settings, and you'll see just how quickly I can get a different sound, a radically different sound, just by changing a few quick settings. So here we go. Right, so straight away I want to change that amp model to a different model. All I have to do is select the block, and with this control start to move to a different model. And what's interesting is when you change an amp block, by default Line 6 will change the cab model as well, so it's more suitable to the amp model that you change it to. Okay, so straight away in a few seconds I've got a completely different amp tone, and I've still got some crucial effects like my volume pedal, the wah, and the EQ as well, so I can change the tones really quickly if I need to. So what I want to do now is start adding in some more effects to the chain. So I'm going to go to one of these blank settings, and I want to add in a gain pedal. So I'm going to click down here on the model list, I'm going to select from the distortion blocks and I'm going to put in an overdrive pedal. Straight away, as soon as I've added that into the chain, you can see I can now turn it on and off using one of the foot switches here. So that's one effect before the amp. I'm going to now add in another effect block after the amp, so let's add some delay. So once again, really quick and easy to set up a couple of different crucial effects in your signal chain, as well as have the amp and cab already there in place for you to use. Okay, so lastly I want to round this off by just EQing it a little bit so it's a little bit more friendly for a live or recording situation. So I can utilize the default EQ block to do that. I can change the model of EQ as well, so I can use any of the Line 6's EQ blocks to manipulate the tone either before or after the amplifier. So also, because you've got the fantastic models from the HX family, you've got that real world dynamic kind of sensibility to all of the amp models, all of the pedal models. So you'll have heard when I turn down my guitar volume, it reacts just like it would do if I was playing into a tube amp. Right, so now that I've talked you through the basics of using the unit and also the controls that are on the surface of it, I just wanted to pay a bit of attention to the back panel and how this will interface with your guitar and other pieces of equipment that you want to use this with. So let me start with the obvious stuff. On the back you've got a single jack in for your guitar, and you've got a headphone output as well, which is controlled by the main output volume. So those are the two most simplistic ins and outs I want to talk about. I want to spend a little bit more time talking about the rest of them, just so it's a little bit more clear as to what each of them will do for you. So moving along from the left, you've got a second expression pedal that you can plug in here if you want to use another expression pedal, or you can also use up to two external foot switches to toggle things like different effects blocks or to change certain settings. You can add even more foot switches to the foot switches that you get built into the unit using that jack socket. Now the effects loop section is a little bit complex, and I want to just spend a couple of minutes talking about it. It's got three main applications that you can use this for. Though it's not quite as daunting as a Helix product would be, where you've got 4 effects loops that have multiple purposes. This has just got the one, and what this will allow you to do, as I say, is 3 different things. Number 1 is to use this with your amplifier's effects loop. So if you want to run effects in 4-cable method, which is to say you can have some effects running into the input of your amplifier and other effects running into the effects loop, like delays and reverbs, you can use these 2 sockets to do that and run 4-cable method. So that's really simple. The second application would be to integrate an external effects unit into the Pod-Go. So say you've got your favorite overdrive pedal that there isn't a model of in the Line 6 model selection. You can just plug in the input and output of your effects unit and run it as a standard block, as you would do in the signal chain with any other kind of effect. So that's really useful as well. This effects loop is also stereo, so if you want to run any stereo delays or reverbs or other effects, you can use TRS cables to run this effects loop as a stereo unit. Now, one thing that's interesting is the effects loop block on the signal chain of any preset is always there, whether you have it active or not. So it's very easy to put this straight into your chain if you want to use this. If you don't want to use it, however, you just have to bypass it, and it's nice and simple to do so. Now, the third application that you would use this for is to use it as an auxiliary in. So you can use the return to plug any kind of mobile phone or music playing device into this unit so that you can jam along with tracks all from this unit. You don't have to have another amplifier to do that. You can have everything going on in the Pod Go, all your guitar tones and any other tracks or music sources that you want to use to play along with. Okay, so moving along to the next pair of jacks, this is the main out section, which is fairly self-explanatory. You would use this section to connect to external devices such as powered monitors, or to send to front of house for live situations, or to your recording interface like we've done today for home recording or in the studio. This is stereo, but you have the option to run mono as well using balanced cables. Next jack along is one that's brand new to the Pod lineup, and it hasn't featured before in any of the HX products either. This is a dedicated output to run to a guitar amplifier. So one of the reasons I think this Pod Go is so friendly for most guitar players is that this is now easier than ever before to use this kind of unit, not only in a fully digital direct to recording or direct to front of house kind of situation, but also with the way it will integrate with your existing valve amplifiers. So what's great about this amp out socket will route all your effects before the amp and cab sims in Pod Go to your amplifier. So you don't ever have to worry that you've misplaced the routing of anything. It all runs seamlessly. The effects that you want to run into your guitar amplifier will run there, and anything else that you don't want to run there will not. And as I said before, you've also got your standard 1/4" headphone socket out. You've also got a USB socket to connect to your computer for software updates, and to use the brand new Pod Go software on your computer to have an even greater level of detailed editing on your desktop computer. While editing your presets via USB, you can also use this socket to load your own impulse responses if you want to use those rather than the stock cab models that are on board the unit. And then you've got your standard 9-volt DC socket in and an on and off power switch as well. I'd also just like to say that the construction quality of this unit is great. This has got the same kind of construction properties as all Pod products have done. So it's very lightweight and simple to operate and move around, but it's still nice and sturdy for live applications. You can bash this thing around with the knowledge that it's going to remain safe and intact. So with all of the simple I/O that I've talked about, as well as the controls on top of the unit, a built-in expression pedal and various onboard foot switches, you've really got a great ready to go kind of a product that will work in any application. Okay, so hopefully this has proved to be a useful overview of the new Line 6 Pod Go. As is the case with all of Line 6's products, it's a very, very versatile unit, and I'm sure that whatever application you want to apply to your rig with this product, it will be able to fulfill in a very satisfying way. I think the Pod Go is going to appeal to a lot of different players out there that maybe previously found the Helix family a little bit too daunting, and maybe some of the smaller units like the HX Stomp or HX Effects a little bit too limiting. It's very much that magic sweet spot in between, and it's going to interface with a lot of different guitar rigs out there a little bit more simplistically. So that's it. If you want to find out any more information about the Pod Go, you can do so on peachguitars.com. If you want to find out any more information about the HX models that make up the brains of this unit, you can refer to our HX Effects video series, as I said before. And until next time, I hope that you take care. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you soon.